Hi everybody, Jessie here from jessiebanks.com, and I'm sharing a video I did for Altenew. So we're kicking things off with the Beauty Within stamp set. I have the rose gold embossing powder as well as the rose gold melting wax, the thanks wax seal, the press piece, and the little spoon that I'm going to melt the wax in. I'm also just using the white watercolor out of the Altenew Artist Grade watercolor set. So I'm going to start off with this black Stonehenge aqua paper. So this is a watercolor paper. When I cut it with my paper trimmer, it gives it the deckled edge itself. I think it's just the way the watercolor paper is formulated, being that it is black. And I'm going to start stamping everything out using some Versamark ink. I do a couple of these in my Misty stamping tool, and then I pull it out just because I only have the regular Misty stamping tool and I didn't have enough room to have things hang off the edge of this slimline card. So I pulled it out and went back to, the old school method with my acrylic blocks. If you guys saw this over on the Altenew channel and are watching it again, thanks so much. I hope everybody enjoyed it. It seemed to go over very well. I am super blessed to have been allowed to work with Altenew a little bit here over the last month and a half, 2 months. It's been a wonderful time. I've always really enjoyed their products, as you know. Did you see me there? Not knowing which way was up on that stamp set? Yeah, that really happened. So I'm just going to stamp this one more leaf out with my Versamark, and then we're going to get into the embossing. I really love how long this stuff stays wet. I got to do all of that stamping and nothing dried out on me. I did treat this with cornstarch before we started, which works the same way as like your embossing buddies and things, just to stop all the embossing powder from sticking everywhere you don't want it to. We're going to heat up that heat tool. I definitely let it warm up a whole bunch so it's nice and hot before I start. And then we're just going to melt this. And as soon as it becomes shiny, you want to keep that embossing tool moving. You don't want to overcook this stuff. When it's shiny, it's done. Now I'm pulling out a bunch of that watercolor or white watercolor just onto the mixing palette. Just makes it easier to pick up. And I'm going to go through with this is one of those zig. Is it a zig? What is it? It's hang on. It's a Zen, Royal and Langnickel Zen watercolor brush. Sorry, I had to pull it out so I remembered what it was called. That's around number 4. And I'm going through and just filling all of our leaves in with straight white watercolors. So it has a little bit of course, it has water mixed in with it just to dilute it. I really like how the black glows through. You'll see that a little more when I do the flowers themselves, the petals. And I do a little more shading on it as opposed to just a flat wash of color over top of all the leaves. I love the contrast you get with the rose gold embossing powder. That was my phone. With the rose gold embossing powder on the black with the white, it reads very classic to me, and you can definitely use this for any occasion. I turned it into a thanks card. It would make great for a wedding sympathy card. It's very versatile in terms of what sort of a sentiment to put onto it in order to use it. It would look great on navy paper. Navy would be absolutely beautiful. I might have to try that. Anyway, we're going to go through and finish this up. I did crank the speed up on this. I slow it down in certain spots to 2, but a lot of the time we're painting this at like 6 times the original speed. This card took me about 2 hours to complete with dry time and everything, just letting it go on. When I make cards, it's definitely not about speed and pumping them out. I just kind of enjoy sitting around in the process and taking my time and just playing with my different medias and stamps and all the stuff I've accumulated over the years in my room. So here we start on the florals. So you'll see I'm putting a more concentrated amount of white right near the stamen, so the center of the flower. And then I'm going to rinse my brush off and slowly blend that out just to create a little bit of shading and gray tone. I love how on the black paper, you only have to do this once and it doesn't involve a ton of work. If you've seen any of my other watercolor videos, and if you haven't, definitely pop through the channel and look for some more of them. A lot of the time it takes me like 3, 4, 5 coats of paint before I reach the saturation I want. And the level of shading I want when I'm painting on white. I find when I'm doing black, especially like this with white watercolor, it's like 1 coat, done. So it takes time, but I find it a lot faster than most of my other watercolor cards. If you wanted to add a little bit of color to this as well, you could definitely mix up a ton of that white and then drop a little bit of like pink or teal or blue, unnatural colors that I like to use on my florals most of the time. It's a problem I have. So we're just going to zip through and do all of these up onto the next flower, and I'm following the exact same thing. Putting that concentration down near the start and then slowly blending it out. And you can see how on the first flower, now that it's starting to dry there, how you get that gray tone and that fading from like your shadows being the brightest white and then the tips of the flower being the darkest, which is kind of like the highlight. It's kind of thinking about it a little bit backwards than anything you've been taught before, definitely when you're painting on black watercolor paper. And I found a use for a lot of white paint. I don't use a ton of white watercolor in my regular work, but on things like this, it's exactly what you need for that opacity and to have it pop off of the black paper. So we're just going to finish up the last little bit and jump through those leaves one more time. So when I go through these leaves again, I'm just going to do kind of a similar effect as I'm doing on the florals right now. We're going to put the most concentrated watercolor there, add where it kind of pinches into the plant, and then blend it out just to get a little bit more of depth and a little bit more of a 3D feel. I had so much fun making this card, you guys. I just really enjoyed sitting down and doing this one. This one was so much fun. And I've been in a funk. As you've seen, I haven't had videos and things have just kind of been, I don't know. Oh, we'll blame COVID, I guess. But this one kind of was just, it was just a really good time to do. I got to use the wallpaper art stamp set to give some more leaves in with the Beauty Within stamp set for the flowers. I really like mixing and matching. And I just, yeah, it was just fun. So once we finished this up here and once this all dried, I took some double-sided tape and put it on the back, and then from the top right to the bottom left, I'm going to wrap just some white string that I had in my stash around it 3 times. It brings some more white into the card, gives it a little bit more detail and something a little different to the front of the card here. And then we're going to pull out that wax and cross your fingers and hope for the best, because that's what I did. So I pulled out my little spoon here and I dropped 4 little pieces of the rose gold wax into it. I didn't have you can see how I put that little dot on there. I'm going to sidetrack so that I know where the top of the thanks is, because I didn't want to stamp that upside down. So I put 4 little pieces of wax in there, and I didn't have a tea light, so I found a big candle upstairs. I don't burn candles often, not sure why I had it. Got that all nice and melty, and then we're going to dump it right on top of that string and drop the thanks into there so that once it all gets hard and stiff, I let it sit for a few minutes. Then we're going to pull that press off of there for the wax seal, and we've got a little thanks. It's not perfect. I love that it's an imperfect wax seal. I'm so happy it worked out. I was super nervous. Then we're going to glue this onto a 3.5 by 8.5 inch card to make that slimline card. And that's it for this one, you guys. It turned out so pretty. I'm really, really happy with it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, definitely leave them down below. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, I'd love for you to subscribe. Thumbs up help me out a whole ton, and it allows other people to see my videos, and I will see you very soon in another one. Have a great day. Bye for now.